Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with yet another update for my ultimate palette battle. I have been doing the series for the last couple of months where I go through my collection and battle palettes against each other. So I basically randomized two palettes from my collection and I battle those against each other like I said, and only one can proceed to the next round. And currently I'm on round 2, which means that all of the palettes I'm going to talk about has already gone through the first round and won. So these are already some of my top favorites in palettes in my collection. And I have already done the first part of round 2. So I posted that a couple of weeks ago, I believe, when this is going live. Might be, I don't know, like less than that. It depends on how my schedule falls. But I have already posted that part. And I will also have the playlist down below with the whole series if you want to binge it, if you haven't seen the other parts before. So today my plan is to finish up round 2. We have 6 rounds to go plus 1 standalone palette, so that's 13 palettes altogether. And the palette that ends up being randomized last, like the only palette that stands at the last point, would automatically go through to the next round because I feel like it's only fair to give that a chance and move forward. But since I'm randomizing all my palettes, I have no way of knowing what that's going to be yet. So I'm going to start off with the first 2 palettes. But before I jump into that, of course, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So, like I said, I have already done the first part of round 2. So these are the remaining palettes. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the first one. So we'll see what I get. We have the Hey Reindeer palette from Odin's Eye, and that's going to battle out against the Bronze Seduction palette from Pat McGrath. So here we have those 2 palettes. We have the Bronze Seduction palette from Pat McGrath, looks like this. And then we have the Hey Reindeer palette from Odin's Eye, which looks like this. Both of these palettes are obviously ones that I love because they've proceeded to the second round of this kind of tournament. But out of these, there's a clear winner for me. I like these for different reasons. They're actually quite different palettes and quite like opposite palette. This was more of a pastel, kind of colorful palette, and this is more of a sultry, smoky, neutral palette with like a few pops, I guess. But out of these 2, the Bronze Seduction palette is a clear winner. I love the special shades in this palette. I love the formula. I love the quality. And all of this palette is really stunning, really beautiful too. It's not special enough to beat out this palette right here, which means that we have a clear winner for round 1, or for the 2 first palettes. Let's roll 2 more palettes. We get the Mini Nude palette from Natasha Denona versus the Gold palette also from Natasha Denona. Let me get those. So 2 palettes from the same brand, very different sizes, but both are kind of neutral color stories. We have the Mini Nude, which looks like this. It's a really nice, like everyday type of palette. And then we have the Gold palette, which is like this. It has a lot of different type of shades in it. It's obviously a bigger 15-pan palette. It has some more kind of neutral browns, but also some more kind of golden, yellow, mustard undertones, as well as a pop of kind of blue, turquoise, as well as some greeny golds. Love this palette a lot. You all know that it's one of my favorite palettes in my collection, and even though this palette is nice, it's not like a tippity top favorite. So again, for this round we have a clear favorite, clear winner, and that is going to be the Gold palette. So this one is going to proceed and the Mini Nude is going to be eliminated. Okay, let's keep going, and we're going to roll 2 more palettes. We have the Club Nebula palette from Kaleidos versus the Mountain Trail palette. Okay, let me get those. Okay, so here we have those 2 palettes. We have the Kaleidos Club Nebula palette, which looks like this. It has quite a few colorful shades, a bit of like a deeper kind of corner down here, but also some really nice sparkly shimmers. Then we have the Mountain Trail palette, which looks like this. It has some like olivey tones, some mustardy, yellowy kind of browns, and yeah, it's mainly like greeny, olivey leaning, which I like these palettes both very nice. But again, quite a clear winner for me here. This one is definitely way more easy than the last video I filmed. In the last video I had some really difficult choices to make, but I think in this video so far it's been clear winners every single time, and I might jinx myself for the remaining palettes, we'll see. But For these two palettes, again, I like them both, of course, because they have gone through to this round. But for me, the winner is going to be the Club Nebula palette. This is unfortunately discontinued, but I absolutely love it. I love the shimmers in here. They're very sparkly, very up my alley. And the colorful mattes are dark, but still colorful. And the lighter mattes as well work really nicely. Nice formula, all of that kind of stuff. So I love this one. And even though this one has an amazing formula, it's Sydney Grace, is some of the best kind of mattes and shimmer, like metallic shimmers in my collection. It's just not as special, and that's the reason this one is going to be eliminated. So time to roll 2 more palettes. We have the Going Coconuts from Colourpop versus the Love Nose palette from Beauty Bay. So again, 2 quite different palettes, although not too different. Like looking at them side by side, they both kind of have that, I don't know, they have some camelic tones, like especially up in this corner here. So they're not as similar as I first thought they would be. But we have the Going Coconuts palette right here from Colourpop, a really nice everyday kind of neutral palette. And then we have the Love Nose palette from Beauty Bay right here, which has a lot of rosier, kind of pinks, peaches, and also some purples with a few mix of neutrals, again up in this corner mainly. I like these palettes, but both of them are like neither of them are absolute favorites in my collection. So this one is difficult because I don't really know which one I prefer. This one is a good everyday palette, but I guess it's a bit more boring. Like it has 3 shimmer shades, and the center shimmer shade is absolutely stunning, but the other 2 are not super special. Whereas this palette has some really, really stunning, sparkly, unique shimmers. The mattes aren't as buildable as I would like. Some of them are a bit too light, but I do like that too, because I don't really like going for super dark looks anymore, at least not right now. It might change obviously when we get into like autumn and stuff like that. That usually is the case for me. But I think this one is going to win mainly because of the shimmers that are in here, because I prefer that to the shimmers in here. And I feel like I have these tones in other palettes, maybe not exact, but I do have other neutrals that I like using as well. So I'm going to let the Love Nose palette proceed and eliminate the Going Coconuts. So we have 2 more rounds to go, plus like the last palette that's going to automatically be put forward. So let me go ahead and pick the next that's going to be compared. We have the Tiny Marvels palette from Sydney Grace versus the Divine Rose 1 from Pat McGrath. Let me get those 2. So here we have those 2 palettes. We have the Tiny Marvels palette from Sydney Grace, which looks like this. And then we have the Divine Rose 1 palette from Pat McGrath. So with these 2, absolutely beautiful formulas, both of the palettes. This one, again, has some of the best kind of formula in my collection. Sydney Grace does some really good eyeshadows. And this is probably the best quality, in my opinion, they've ever made. Love this palette a lot. This is actually one of my highest ranked palettes in my collection, together with one more palette, which I actually spoke about in the last round. But this is one of my favorite palettes that I've used so far in my Big Fat Eyeshadow project, so that's why I'm talking about ranking. This one ranked 19 out of 20. Love it a lot. Then this palette here, again, beautiful formula, but I don't reach for these 4 shades right here. I don't reach for those type of shades that often. They're a bit too gray, cool tone for me. I prefer like slightly rosier, pinkier kind of undertones rather than those like purpley gray undertones. But I do love some of these special shades. This one right here is one of my favorite shades in my whole collection. Absolutely love that one. But comparing it to this palette here, I just feel like it doesn't compare. Like it is a really nice palette. I love using the Divine Rose 1. But I way prefer this palette, which means that the Tiny Marvels palette is going to win, and I'm going to eliminate the Divine Rose 1. Okay, so I just stared at the last 3 palettes that I have left. 2 of them are going to compete, and 1 is going to be automatically put forward, so it's going to be interesting to see. Looking at them, it's going to be hard to eliminate one of those 3, but we'll see which 2 are getting pitted against each other for the next round, and which one is going to be automatically put forward. So we have the Deep Sea Treasures palette from Cleona, okay, versus the Merry Christmas palette from Odin. Let me get those. So here we have those two palettes. This is a palette of multichromes from Cleona. I don't know if you can see any of the shifts in the mirrors there. Maybe you can see a little bit. Not sure. Maybe I'm trying to show you. Anyway, it's a really beautiful palette of multichromes. And then we have this one right here, which is the Merry Christmas palette from Odin. I'm actually wearing a couple of these shades on my lids today. Not too many, but this is my product level up level 4 palettes. I'm currently using this one quite a bit, which also means I have gotten to know this palette quite a lot. And this is quite difficult. This is probably one of the more difficult choices today, because I love Cleona. I love the multichromes they do, and this is a beautiful palette. It has some really, really special, lovely multichromes in here, some of like my favorites. But then we also have this palette here, which has, again, some really beautiful, sparkly, like duochrome, multichrome shades. So it also has those kind of special indie shades, and it also has a lot of beautiful mattes. I think I'm gonna make this decision just from like one reason only, and that is because with this palette I can actually make complete looks with it, because it has both shimmers and mattes. It has like different type of undertones, and the variety is much wider in this palette. Whereas this palette, even though it has some of the most beautiful multichrome sparkly shadows, I always gonna have to pull in other palettes with it to make a full look, unless I want to go for just an all shimmer look, which I almost never do. I always put like a little bit of my crease, like a matte in my crease. I guess I could use my bronzer, but I feel like with this one I always have to complement it with something else. So it breaks my heart, but I'm going to eliminate the Cleona Deep Sea Treasures palette, and the Merry Christmas palette is going to be put forward to round 3. And just for shit and giggles, I'm going to roll again to see what I get, but we only have one palette left, which is going to be, just to show you, the Glam Face palette from Natasha Denona, which I have right here. This is the palette that did not get to compete. It's a lucky one because it just gets automatically put forward. But since I have an uneven number of palettes, I thought that would be most fair to put this one forward, so I don't have to like, I don't know, I feel like I need this chance. The only thing I could think of to have to do instead is to battle like the last 3 palettes against each other. But I'm just going to automatically put this one forward, and if this ever happens again, that's going to be the way I do it. I'm going to randomize, and then if I have like one odd palette left, that's going to automatically be put forward. So this one lucked out, and it's going to be put forward to round 3. And that is also the final palette we have to talk about today. So there you guys, is going to be it for today's video. After filming this, I'm going to go ahead and add all of the winners into a round 3 wheel. So I'm going to be able to do this again with the palettes that won. So I don't know how long it's going to be until the next video. It might be a couple weeks again. Again, it all depends on how my filming schedule looks. These are good like filler videos for me, because I can pre-film them and, you know, put them in whenever between product panel updates, which is something that I have to film more in real time. So we'll see when the next one pops up, but it won't be more than like 2-3 weeks, probably more than, no more than 2 weeks, I'm going to aim to. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys!